Hello 6303. In this short instructional video, we're going to be discussing how to write your introduction and summary, which are the last two sections you will need to write for your review of literature this semester. You'll need the same two resources we've been using to write each of the other sections this semester, and those resources are the Review of Literature Trait Checklist and Student A's sample paper. Before we look at the sample paper, let's go ahead and look at the trait checklist. For the introduction, you're going to need to briefly introduce the overarching problem that your almost study is trying to address. Keep in mind, you're not doing a completed study, you're just doing the first part of that, which is the review of literature. So it's like you're going to take the problem that you're writing about, and it's going to kind of be a big problem, and you're going to whittle it down to exactly what you're going to write about in this paper. And so in APA style, it's very different from creative writing where you want to lure your reader in. It's the exact opposite of that. You want to tell your reader exactly what you're going to be talking about in the paper so that they know what information is there and if they need to continue reading or not. The header in this section is formatted a little bit differently as well. The paper itself is going to have a paper title, but the introduction does not get its own heading in APA style. Okay, so let's take a look at Student A's sample paper. The first thing I want you to notice is the title here. The title for the paper is bolded and centered, and it follows capitalization rules where the major words in the title are capitalized, but things like articles and prepositions are not. Please do not put the word introduction. You do not need a header for the introduction. We use the paper title and then we go straight into typing the introduction with a tab, no extra spacing here. I want you to pause the video a moment and read these two paragraphs and then come back to me. Okay, so one of the things that I really want you to notice is how this student takes a big problem and then she narrows it down to what she's going to talk about specifically in this review of literature. So she starts with a broad statement: schools have an important responsibility in educating the future. And then she goes down and explicitly states the problem she'll address in this sentence highlighted in blue. Unfortunately, most schools are failing to protect their lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender student population. You'll see that she provides a teeny little bit of evidence for that statement, but she doesn't go on and develop that because this is just an introduction. It's just a highlight reel of what's coming later in the paper. The student also follows APA style paragraphing, where she has the topic sentence, supporting sentences, and then the concluding sentence. And you'll notice that her concluding sentence kind of restates what the problem is she's going to be addressing in this paper. If you go to the second paragraph in the introduction, you're going to notice that student A presents solutions for how to fix the problem. And these solutions are directly connected to her themes. So she says exactly what she's going to talk about in the themes. And she even uses the names of the themes to do so. Every single thing highlighted in pink is part of a theme in the rest of the paper. And then finally, she wraps up with a statement of here's what we need to do to begin to fix this problem. So, two purposes in your introduction: state the problem, make sure you narrow it down, and two, offer some solutions that you found in your themes on how to fix that problem. You also need to remember to include citations from multiple sources. Do not submit a paper that has no citations in your introduction. These thoughts have been gathered as you've done the research over the past few weeks, and you need to make sure that you're not plagiarizing and you are citing others for the work that they have done. So both of the paragraphs in your introduction, or if you're talented enough to whittle that down to one paragraph, they need to contain citations throughout, and it shouldn't be citations from one source, but rather multiple sources. So that is the gist of the introduction. Okay, last section, the chapter summary or the conclusion. Again, it's going to have a level 1 heading. The section should highlight the most important information from theme 1 and theme 2. It should summarize the critique of empirical studies in 1, maybe 2 sentences. It should summarize the gaps in literature in 1 to 3 sentences, and you do not introduce any new information that was not developed in previous sections. No new information, no new citation, absolutely no direct quotes in this chapter summary or in this conclusion. So let's take a look at student A's sample conclusion. Please note this is going to be 1 to 2 paragraphs max. You do not need to do any more than that. It should be about the shortest section in your entire review of literature. We have a topic sentence that introduces what this section will talk about. We have a header for this, a level 1 style header. Here in the pink, you can see how student A has summarized the important points from her 2 themes. She's got 1, 2, 3 sentences total to summarize 2 themes. So 2 to 4 sentences max is all you would need for that part. What's in the bright green here highlights the gaps in the literature, and then what's in the teal color highlights the most important findings from the critique of literature. She pulls from theme 1, theme 2, gaps, and critique of literature to wrap up this paper. You do not need the last line. The following chapter will take a look at the design. You can put that if you want, but you're not going to be writing that chapter this semester. Okay, so that's what you need to do for your introduction and your conclusion. I want to take just a quick second to talk about references to make sure that your paper is ready to go before you submit it in this module. APA 7th edition has changed references to bold. It needs to be bold, center, and the R capitalized. Everything should be double spaced. Please pay attention to the spacing after. You go to line spacing options, see how it says double and 0, 0. A lot of times Word likes to be tricky on us and it'll do something like this. You see how it has that extra spacing there? You don't want that. So just make sure that your spacing is set to 0 so that we're following APA format and everything looks really uniform. Your references need to be alphabetical by author's last name. Do not put the entire name there, just the initial of the first name, full last name, initial of first name. Check the APA manual for how to format each of these. Pay attention to your capitalization. Capitalization is sentence style for the article name. It follows standard capitalization rules for the journal name. Make sure to italicize your issue, put your volume number in parentheses, put the page numbers here, and then something that's different from 6th edition to 7th edition is we don't put the word DOI anymore. We actually put the web address for it. And only the web address for DOIs gets included. Do not put retrieved from and a website anymore. We don't do that. So if I were going to submit this paper, I'd have to go fix this on all of these. Okay. Last thing, hanging indent. You can do that by selecting it, go back up to line spacing options, and then you'll see under special it's on hanging. Okay. Get that all finished up. Polish that paper up by checking it against the trait checklist. You're going to want to also check your APA format before you submit it, and then you're all finished. Okay. Great job this semester. If you have any questions, just email me.